What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Great Lakes Outdoors podcast. Today, it's going to be a little bit different. We're at a different location even, but same guy with us. Alex is with me. Alex,
What's up?
And we got a special guest that we've been trying to book for probably 2.5 years now. He's Paul Hinman's top guide in his turkey guide service. Glenn Alfieri with GK Calls. Glenn, how's it going, man?
It's good. Thanks for having me. I'm not that busy or not that important of a guy, but I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old now, so that's what has been occupying my time. So
yeah,
I appreciate you making it work and coming up to see me. So
we needed to come up here though, because it's been a while. Like where I've been saying I'm going to come up and check the shop out and check the calls out and be able to bring Alex up here and get to meet you too. It's I was more than happy to do it.
Yeah, super cool.
We've been talking about it and excited for it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Once it kind of got really rolling for us, you know.
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. And the season's right around the corner now, so it's a good time to do this episode.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So the people that don't know Glenn, the face behind GK. Who is Glenn? I mean, everybody knows GK, but
Yeah, so my dad started the company GK Calls back in it was 99. We were originally called Wing Feather, and we sold supplies. We sold a little bit of everything. We sold final approach blinds back when layout blinds were just getting going, and all the bags, and Hitachi bottom seat covers, and that was another big brand back in the day, and Kent ammo, and we sold Big Guy's Best duck calls and Tim Ground's half breeds, and just basically a supply business. And it was a business that we started because my dad, it was diehard upland hunter, and got into the waterfowl game and loved it. And just being a small business owner already, he, saw an opportunity and started the company. And we were just working out of a black Suburban with a banner on the side of it. And we still have those pictures at Point Malay and, back in the heyday there, and doing those shows, and gained a lot of popularity. Guys started wanting more stuff, and it was just an opportunity and a place to get it. And we became really good friends with Todd Sabota, who had the giant killer goose call. He was a great friend of ours, and we hunted with him, and all those guys down in Adrian, George Lynch and Mark Sprague and Rob Shadwell, all those guys we were really good friends with and doing all the shows with, and we were selling the giant killer, and it was doing great. And Cabela's came into town. I'm not sure what year it was, but when Dundee was built,
early 2000, I'd have to say.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there. And, they started doing a lot of the shows with us, and, it just became hard to compete with the supply side of things, just because them being so big, the amount that they could buy, we couldn't compete with the same prices. So we kind of saw the industry changing a little bit, and, we wanted to kind of restructure. So we talked to Todd, and we came up with a deal where we took over, the giant killer, and from there, we rebranded and we changed it. The original call being called the Giant Killer, we called it GK Calls, just to be a little bit, for shirts and things like that, a little bit more politically correct. So killer wasn't on every shirt. And from there, we ran with it. We came out with a bunch of different models of calls, and the guys we had and we still do have an amazing team of callers. We traveled the United States and Canada and competed in a lot of competitions, and we hold a couple world titles, and here we are today, 25 years later, we're still rolling. So it's crazy. It's been a lot of fun. I grew up in the industry, and I know a lot of the guys. I know most of the guys in the industry. So it's been a cool thing, and see everybody, the companies change and grow, and guys that I grew up with that were kids, now they're adults, and it's I've seen a lot happen, and it's a special industry. We've made amazing friends and amazing relationships that I would never trade for the world. So
that's what's crazy. I mean, just to be able to grow up with the opportunities that you were given as young as you were, being able to meet these, like, little did you know, these giant names in the industry.
Absolutely.
I mean, the big wigs of the
biggest of the big. Yeah.
It's it's crazy. And you were just out there having dinner or packing your jerky chew out in front.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I was telling the guys before we started the podcast is at 10, 11 years old, I knew how to pack a tin of chew and, because all these guys were chewing and I wanted to be like them, and I got my little shredded beef jerky and we were, I was dipping and
That's awesome.
dipping the jerky with them and just to be one of the guys. And that's what's so special about it to me is that, my dad brought me alongside him. Now being a dad, I understand how hard it is, right? Like, having a kid and, making sure they're okay and fed and going to the bathroom and all that stuff. And for him to, let me travel with him across the country, side by side, never complained, always wanted me there. I learned lessons that I could never, forget. And one funny story that, I always tell is that I saw on QVC this like 130 piece knife set. And I begged my dad, I was like, I want it. And it was just a bunch of pocket knives and all these little, and he said, yeah, you can have it. He said, but you got to sell every one of those. So at the shows, he set up a little piece of the booth and I had my little knife section and I sold every one of those knives. And that's how I learned how to become a salesman, and it was a lesson that I didn't understand I was learning until today, but just invaluable. I had to learn how to talk to people and communicate. Right. And, I'm sure a lot of guys just bought it out of the, goodness of their heart, but I'll never forget that, and
that's what's crazy nowadays, though. Not a lot of people could even talk to people. Like it's all over text message.
Yeah.
They're scared to talk to anybody nowadays.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah. There was a lot of lessons learned and, it was a special time. Another one that comes to mind is it was Bay City. And I was in charge to pack the tent up in the truck or the trailer. And I forgot all the leg poles in the shed at home. And I remember getting to the show that morning and we unpack and my dad's like, where's the legs at? And so he had to go to the hardware store and hand cut, 6 legs for this big tent. And needless to say, I've never forgot a tent pole ever again. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way, but
that's for sure.
It was, just things like that. There's a million stories and the guys that we've met and the laughs that we've had. It's just, it's a special industry and, I'm so lucky to be a part of it.
No, for sure. I mean, it's got to be crazy too, like just seeing the growth or the, growth in some aspects of it all and the decline in some aspects because it's such a fluctuating, industry nowadays.
Very, very volatile.
And it makes me wonder, with Cabela's being as big as it was when they first came in to what it is now, because the Cabela's down in Dundee isn't the same as it used to be, how a store like that would do nowadays. Because we have the Knutson's like way out in Brooklyn area. There's really not another store around here that sells the ammo or the decoys or whatever it may be. Like we have our local bait shops that you could buy a little bit here and there, but nothing compared to like what you guys were selling. So it makes me wonder like what that would be like now. I mean, there was that time obviously where it was tough to compete with them, but now it's like I feel like it would be even better now. I don't know. Just something that, because we were talking about
more of like a hobbyist store. Cabela's is more of like it's transitioning into more of like a hikers, campers store, so to speak, because whenever we go in there now, they have nothing for waterfowlers.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 2 aisles. What is that going to do for you when your whole sport is so gear dependent? You know?
Right.
And I think that I think that the world has changed to, well, certain areas, I guess, where, made in the USA is important to some people and supporting your local small businesses is important, not to everybody. And again, I mean, I'm sure you guys do it and I do it. I mean, sometimes you do have to price shop, with inflation, as much as I'd like to buy that, whatever it is, the, $230 steel frame for the blind that, Johnny welded for you in his backyard. Like I'd love to, but when I can get it for $100, sometimes you got to sacrifice that because you need 6 of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So as much as, we try to do it because we have 2 small businesses. So like, I try to use local vendors and, put the money back into Michigan and things like that. But sometimes it's not always possible, and because everything's so expensive now, inflation is insane and, it's, hopefully it gets better, but, that's the thing. It's like, we try to support as much as we can,
And that's one thing with GK alone. like you guys do by far the most of giving back, whether it's for the kids during the calling competitions or just anything, giveaways or raffles. I mean, you guys are giving back more than anything. It's insane, and it goes a long ways, and people see that. People recognize that as a company.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if we do the most, but we try very hard for the means that we have. One thing that we have always concentrated, like you said, is on the kids, because without kids, there is no future of the sport.
Oh yeah.
And we always donate a bunch of calls to the kids events because those kids hopefully one day are our customers. And it's been special because, like I was telling you guys before this, I mean, there's guys that started when they were, super, super young, and now that they're 16, 17 years old and they're coming to see me and they're spending their own money and they're driving there where, back in the day they had, it just
around in the stroller.
Right. And they couldn't, make a sound on the call, but the parents would, they would get this free call at the event and then they'd come to the booth and say, thank you.
Yeah.
And, it's just, that's what's special, is that they keep coming back. And, and that's we've made some lifelong friendships doing that. And the joy that I get when I see, 30, 40, 50, 100 kids, blowing the duck call that we provided them, yelling GK calls. Like we always do that at Bay City. It's just, that's a special, it's a special thing to see. And it just, that's what brings the joy to us and, keeps you grinding.
Alyx is going to be our guy this year. Alyx and Trav. I had to go through it last year.
Oh God.
Because Glenn,
write that down. Yeah, I threw you under the bus a little bit. Go ahead and tell them about that.
Glenn was like, "Hey, what are you doing at like 11 o'clock?" I'm like, "Well, here. Like, what do you think I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be working."
Well, this was at Point Moulet.
Yeah, at Point Moulet last year. And mind you, like this is like our first show, so we don't know what's going on. I think it was the first day. I want to say it was. So like, I was bouncing back. We were still trying to figure out like how to work both booths.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, sweet. You're going to be here. Actually, you're going to be up on stage blowing the calls for the kids. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now, dude. So I'm looking at my phone all day long. Like
Kyle of all people too.
I was shitting bricks all day. Like I was.
And I had no idea. I mean, you took I was like, hey, do you mind if you do this? And you were like, yeah, absolutely, man. Like you played it he played it super cool. And I was like, if I knew, I probably wouldn't have asked you if you were so scared. Like I was like, but I mean, you played it cool. Like I had no idea until you felt that way, until after you told me. You're like, dude.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're helping his booth out and with the calls and everything. So like, can't really say no to this guy. Trav didn't really know Glenn at the time, so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm up.
Trial by fire.
And Evan was like talking it up, which was helping us with the booth and stuff. So thankfully for him, he was like able to like kind of calm me down a little bit. Well, I'm looking at my phone like every 5 minutes, like just dreading the time until it hits. And it hits. I'm walking up there. The guy gets on stage and starts talking. He's like, "Oh, we have a professional duck caller," and I'm like looking around, like, "Who are we talking about here?"
Right.
He's talking about me. I'm like, "Whoa, we got the wrong guy here. Man. Like, let's get somebody else up there." And thankfully, the guy up there was helping me out because Glenn's like, "Yeah, just jump around, have the kids do circles, quack, whatever it is." I've never even witnessed one of these things happen before, so I'm like,
what the hell do I do?
Man, it was rough. I mean, it ended up being good, but it was rough.
Did you have to duck and goose call, or just duck call?
Just a duck.
This year we'll make sure you have to do both.
No.
Yeah, that's a lot. Both.
I mean, if they do goose, your ears are going to be gone. Just put it that way.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because they're just screaming on the calls the entire time.
What'd you have them do?
I blacked out, man. Oh my God. I don't know, man. It was.
I can't. I truly apologize. I would have never put you in that situation if I knew that. But it's funny now that you tell me about that. Well, that's the thing, though. It's like nowadays.
Well, now looking back at it, it's like, okay, I'm glad I did do that because now we got a story behind it.
Yeah.
It was either going to be you or Trav. So flip a coin and see. So we'll
I'll do it. Trav's got a lot going on.
He does got a lot going on. He just had his first baby the other day.
Oh yeah, awesome!
Yeah.
So congratulations.
He's dealing with all that right now.
I know how that goes.
He's been sending me pictures of what he calls my nephew flipping me off. Like,
oh, really? That's funny.
So, yeah, he's getting on my nerves with that. But for you, growing up, I mean, were you guys hunting A-frames? Because this is a question you said selling layouts. Mm-hmm. Was it mainly layouts you guys were hunting on back then?
Yeah, mainly layouts, yep.
And when did you switch to the A-frames? Recently?
Yeah, we didn't start hunting A-frames until, I don't even know, 5-6 years ago. I mean,
for me, I'm not looking back at layouts, man.
No, never.
I'm not looking back at those.
not. You know, I'm 36, but I would say, you know, now that I'm older, I definitely don't want to be climbing in and out. It's probably more that I'm out of shape, you know. But I just
think they stick out so much.
I think there's a time and place for them. I mean,
sure.
you know, there's certain, you know, birds that are, you know, more sketchy where they've you know been hunted more educated.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you get a good low profile hide. Obviously, it's gonna, you know, if you have good ground cover and you can, you know.
Right.
But I don't miss the days of, you know, pulling 8 blinds out of the trailer and then having to stubble all of them, you know, every field you changed. It's so nice having, you know, the 2 panels of the blinds like half done and then you just touch them up. Like,
that's such an
there is nothing better than that. You know, I remember the days of all the bloody hands from the thorns and, you know, going to have to get there 2.5 hours early just to stubble blinds.
Making all the mud, making sure everybody's faces are down inside of the blind is horrible.
That's the hardest part with layouts for me is like, I want to watch where they're at all the time and just staying down and trying to, okay, where'd they go? Where'd they go? And nobody can move. Because you're like so tight and you don't want to make anything move, right? And I'm like trying to turn and look. It's just
right. Well, and I need like 6 of them, you know, sewn together. I don't fit in very many of them, so it's the A-frames are way more comfortable. And
I was saying for you, that'd be in like a garbage bag. Your feet are probably busted out the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of an off-topic thing, but I just I get off topic quite a bit.
Oh yeah, no,
I like I say one thing and then I'll forget about like even bringing it up. But so growing up, going back to even like the growing up stages of it all and the calling aspect of it all, you've hunted with some amazing people in your day.
Mm-hmm.
It had to been kind of a confidence, you know, like thing where you're like, oh man, I don't even know if I want to call in front of these guys. I mean, when did you start calling?
You know, I really didn't start. I mean, you know, obviously I started at a young age, but I'm nowhere near even, you know, I never blew in. I mean, as a kid, I blew in competitions at Bay City and
right.
you know, Point Malay youth events and things like that. I never did the competitive thing. And, you know, I always concentrated more on the sales side of things and, you know, the customer service. And because we had such amazing callers that were with us, you know, I mean, we had a group of guys that, you know, just were at a time untouchable. You know what I mean? They were the top of the top and you know, I got to sit side by them. And, you know, one of the things that is special, I think, is that we got to do that. And we had so many, you know, top elite guys that, you know, were, you know, world champions and you know, Wade Walling in 2008 won the worlds, and 2010 won the champion of champions, you know, we were the 4th call company ever to be able to do that because it only happens every 5 years. So, you know, a record like that is or just to be on that, you know, thing. And, you know, Craig McDonald, 3-time Canadian world champion, Paul being a champion, Scott Rumble, you know, there's Mike Coppola, Tyler Sabelli, I mean, Brandon Wood, there's so many different guys down the line. You know, Rusty Heron used to be a GK guy. You know, way back in the day, George Lynch, still a great friend of ours. You know, he grew up in the same town as Todd, who started the Giant Killer. So he used to blow a GK, and then, you know, created an amazing call company for himself. And, you know, we got to, you know, we would have a booth right next to the Zinc guys. And, you know, I grew up, it's funny. It's probably too long of a story to tell for the podcast, but all the Zinc guys and all the guys from like Adrian, they all call me Chet because long story short. So one time, I think it was Fred asked Todd what Bob's son's name was. And and it was like early and you know, when we started doing these shows, and they couldn't remember. And they said, I think it's Chet. So
Chet.
Still to this day, when I saw Fred February 2020, I saw Fred and Dawn at NWTF, and he was like, "Hey, Chet," you know. I haven't been called that in so long because I haven't seen him in so long, but it was just so funny because they still to this day, you know. But
and you grew up hunting around Michigan, like all
yeah. We so you know, my dad was a diehard upland upland hunter, grouse, woodcock, pheasant. So we grew up, that's kind of what I grew up doing, not a bunch of deer hunting, here and there.
Right.
But that's what we really grew up doing until we got into the duck and goose game, and then, kind of cut our teeth on Saginaw Bay. And then we had I don't know what year it was. But then we got a lease over in Canada where it was part of like the Bradley's area. It's kind of just outside of Chatham. And what a special place that was. I mean, you border a wildlife refuge, and there was a ton of geese. My first goose that I ever shot was a single that came in that was an orange neck collar.
No way.
Yeah, we were standing in we were hunting standing corn, and it came in and landed, and my dad said, there's no way that you're there's no way you're shooting this on the ground. So I walked out, my Uncle Joe, he's like, back him up. I walked out, I missed the first shot, and the second shot I put it right through the collar. It didn't crack, it just put a hole through it, but I haven't shot a collar since, so I kind of screwed myself on that one. But that was the first bird I ever shot, and it was a really cool place too, because we started selling the RoboDuck, like right when the RoboDuck really got popular. Right. And they were shooting, being on this border, like geese were no problem, but the ducks, they wanted to stay on the water's edge because it was like Mitchell's Bay area.
Gotcha.
So there was all these big duck clubs like Balmoral and Big Point, and I can't remember all the names of them, but there's a ton of them, and you could all bait back then. So all the ducks would stay, to the baited zones, and that's you can have where you can like hunt in the middle where like the refuge is here, your property's here, and you can have a baited zone as long as it's far enough away.
Same with Canada. I think to this day you still do that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yep. So, and that's kind of where I'm going with it, is that so all the ducks kind of stayed there. So my dad started selling these RoboDucks, and we brought them over, and they were shooting probably like 100, 200 ducks a year. And there was like a group of guys that belonged to this like lease. It was called the Gander Club. And they went from shooting like 200 ducks to like 1,000 ducks.
Oh, wow.
Because it was limits every time. And it was one of the biggest reasons it was this RoboDuck. Like I'll never forget, I wasn't old enough to hunt yet. And my dad had we set up, and he said, when you get back, because I always wanted to turn on the RoboDuck, because I wasn't hunting. It was my cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So he said, don't turn it on until I get back. And, of course, when he left, I went and flicked it on because I wanted to like pretend like I was the one, calling in the ducks. Right. It would be dark out. You would flip that thing on, and those ducks would come in so hard that they would knock that duck over. Like
you always hear stories about that to this day.
It was the craziest thing, and I got to witness it. And it was the time where, they knew nothing different. They never had seen one before. And it was like a true magnet. Like it was unbelievable. And it was, so it was cool to be part of, like, to see that like technology happen.
The evolution of technology.
Yeah. And see like that farm transform. And what's crazy is that next to it, there was a private club where we would always hear these stories of, it was like right next to our club. And you'd always hear these stories of, Peter Stroh's used to hunt there, and Henry Ford got to hunt there, or they used to belong there, and it was like an industrial lights club, and it was men's only, but they would bring their girlfriends there, and it was all these crazy stories. And we would always hear these guys shooting, and like we heard that it was like, you could only shoot 28 gauges there, and it was like very elite, right?
High top, yeah,
like industrialist of back in the day. And so fast forward to like 2011, we got an invite to go hunt there. And it was really cool because I got to go back to like our old stomping grounds where I got to shoot my first goose, and we got to hunt this like elite club. And again, it was just, a special time. And, and that's what hunting to me is all about. Like you said earlier, like I've been very fortunate to hunt alongside some of the very best, Sean Stahl and Zink and Todd Sabota and George Lynch and, all those guys. I mean, they Luke Scherter's up at Wingfeather Outfitters, and Scott Rumble, one of the best hunters there ever was, Craig McDonald, all those guys. Like, it's just, I've got to experience like, these crazy, hunts and things like that. And now it's about the memories, right. and it's just all those special times where you don't have to kill a limit, but there's something funny that happens, or, that's what makes the hunt for me now, and that's what, I think that's what we need to get back to a lot. It's not about the, I call them Facebook hunters or Instagram hunters, the pile hunters. And, it's one of my favorite hunts last year. Like, we didn't hunt too much. We hunt the thumb area quite a bit, and the birds were kind of weird last year, and we didn't hunt a ton. And we have a place like between Cass City and Caro, and we normally, we've tried, but there's, we don't have we're just kind of getting used to the area and learning people and meeting people. And we got to hunt like a mile from our place, and we killed a 4-man limit, and it was father and son and father and son.
That's awesome.
And it was probably one of my top 5 hunts ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's super special.
Yeah, I got to see my dog work, my dad's dog work, and it was just 4 guys, and it was just special. You know what I mean? It was like, it was one of those ones that you'll just never forget. And it wasn't about, there was no pictures posted of it. There was no video of it. It was just, you're in the moment, and it's like, there's
no pressure behind it.
Right.
You're just going out there and just whatever happens, happens.
And that's what, I think that I want a lot of young kids to get that, that to understand that it's not about, a picture's great, right? A picture's worth 1,000,000 words or 1,000 words or whatever they say. But I think that memory, those last forever, and that's
the hardest part. Even for us, like, there's people that talk to us and say, "Oh, you're too cool for us because you're doing this, you're doing that." It's like, listen, guys, like, we're not even doing it for that reason, like you think we're doing it for. Like, we just want to go out there and hunt and have a good time. Like, I want to be out there with good friends, good family, like just good people in general. One of my best hunts was just me and my dad, and we shot, I think, our 2-man limit, and that was like when we first started. And we've had so many, more birds killed in a hunt and so many other crazy things that happened to us. But that's like one hunt that sticks out to me and him. And like you said, that just it's going away. And like you said, like the social media standpoint, everybody's got to shoot their limits, but I also think there's like levels to the hunting.
Yeah, for sure.
The bloodthirsty, the piles, and then you're just sitting back and enjoying it.
And don't get me wrong. I think we've all been there, right? Like you all. I'm not saying I don't want to shoot a limit. I don't want to. I'm not saying that I, having a hunt where you get a 6-7 man limit. Like it's amazing stuff, right? Like we've all been there, and it's great to be a part of. But I just don't like what I don't like is that people like they feel that it's a failure if you don't shoot an 8-9 man limit, right? That's where I think the disconnect is that I'm not saying that I don't like doing that. I'm not saying that I haven't done it, but the disconnect is that it's not a failure if you don't shoot a limit, or, you have, say, 6 guys and you're a full man limit short. Let's go to breakfast, man.
Yeah.
We don't need to sit here until 1:30 in the afternoon and bake in the sun. Like,
scratch off 4 or 5 more.
There's always that guy like, oh, let's just wait. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
Like,
we had a great day. Let's go eat.
Say that we shot a 6-man limit.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
shoot a couple birds, watch the dogs retrieve.
Yeah.
Let's go get breakfast. That's what my favorite part is,
same.
And let's laugh about all the stuff that happened. Someone forgot something, or someone whiffed on a single that came in.
Yep. That sounds like me and you now.
Oh, for sure.
Like we're over that hump and we're kind of getting into like the old, I like to call it the old man phase, where you just kind of want to sit. And like he was like, I went down to Arkansas this year, and man, I can't, half the time I got to take my dog. So half the time I didn't even shoot.
Yep.
I was just working her, and that was a gratifying moment for me. And I didn't even pull up my gun. We're getting into that hump where that,
and I think, awesome, I think that's, going back to like evolution, like you said, I think that you all of us have to go through it. Right. And understand, but I also think that it's important, as a father now, to raise them the correct way, and I think that, I don't know your father, I know yours, that I've seen, I've had conversations with him, and I think that's how he's, he raised you and he instilled that in you. And from your turkey hunting, we can kill 1 bird in Michigan per guy, but how many people did you take out? How many birds did you, get to take and give someone an opportunity for, and that's your time, and but you're doing it because it's, you have a passion for it, and it's not, you're not getting paid for it. Right. You truly enjoy going out and trying to trick these birds, and that's.
And that's the thing. Like, there's some guys, everybody knows that we usually hunt with a big group.
Yeah.
And this year I've told everybody, it's like, listen, guys, I'm not taking half you guys out anymore because we shoot 10 birds with 7, 8 guys, whatever it is, and everybody's like, oh man, that hunt sucked. It's like, I don't want you out there anymore if that's the case. Like,
right.
And
that's not the big picture.
it's like, for me, it's just so laughable because killing the birds is 1% of it, in my opinion. Shooting and killing them is 1%. What about building the blinds? What about brushing the blinds? What about loading the trailer, unloading the trailer, making sure the dog stays? Scouting. Yeah, there you go. Scouting for 2-3 days. Like, you know what? It's a lot of freaking work and time away from your spouse, your kids, and whoever else you care about, or your responsibilities.
Well, everything nowadays is instant gratification. It's someone told me a story that their daughter, they said, where do you want to go on? Like she was a senior spring break, right? Yeah. And they said, where do you want to go on spring break? Within reason, we can go, anywhere you want. And she said, I want to go to LA. He's like, okay, like I've never been there. Why do you want to go there? And she said she wanted to get content for social media at all the big places where people take pictures at.
I think I've heard this before.
I probably told you the story because I think we talked about this last year when we were talking about kids, and I tell a lot because it's so crazy to me. Right. You know what I mean? Like that. Instead, when I was in spring break, I wanted to go to Mexico because I was 18 and I could go drink. Right?
Yeah, and we went party your face off.
Right, we went with 30 people, and it was the time of my life, and I don't think we took a picture.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And I feel so bad that instead of wanting to be with her friends or whatever, she wanted to go to get likes on a picture because it was a place where they hadn't been, or
sad.
It's so sad, and it's different with the the side of things where it's hunting, but like it's this instant gratification that I killed 17 man limit. I'm the best hunter in Michigan, right? I have 95 birds here in this pile, and we have a firing line, and we're the best hunters. And again, I've been on those hunts, and I'm not putting people down for it.
Right.
I'm just saying that if you're doing it for the right reason, right? Like if you have 17 really close friends, but it's the guys that call up like, oh, we have this, 300, 500 bird feed. We need to kill every bird in this field, and let's call up every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come out here instead of just, like, hey, let's shoot this 6-man limit and then come hunt again tomorrow. Yeah.
Right.
And that's what we've kind of gotten away from, And again, I keep saying it, I'm not trying to put people down. I think it's just that it's important to understand, the hunting heritage and that it's more than just pulling the trigger, because that's where these negative, things come with hunting. It like,
so cutthroat, everybody's hush hush.
Right.
It's
that not only that, but like the people that think like hunters just kill, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so much more than that. Like I put in for deer hunting, the amount of hours that I put in before I even hunt is insane. And I actually enjoy doing the habitat stuff more than I actually like sitting there waiting for the damn things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I enjoy that stuff more, and I've gotten my 3-year-old involved in it. And we spent one day this year, we spent 10 hours straight at the farm. We planted a bunch of willows and little pines. We laid 10 yards of mulch, and he wouldn't take a nap. He fell asleep on me on the tractor. You probably saw that picture, and then he got his little John Deere, and he would show me how to drive up the mulch pile and back up. And it's like, man, this kid's going to grow up, and it's just these little, and again, what am I teaching him? It's just hard work, and it doesn't have to be on a keyboard or a tablet or a TV. And again, I'm not saying that he doesn't watch TV, but
you're also teaching him though that everything's not handed to him either. You got to put the work in to get, you know, like you said, hard work. Right. You got to put that in.
And I think it's just, for me, it's fun. It's fun watching him take a liking to it. We spread seed or fertilizer. He wants his own little spreader, and like I Jimmy rigged like a snow plow on his little his little gator at home because he wanted, it's just stuff like that. It's fun, but I think that's I think it's important to start instilling that stuff in them early, and I think that a lot of our youth, it seems like, has lost that.
I couldn't agree more on that. I couldn't agree. We literally talk about that all the time. Me and you.
Yeah, my kid, I have a 9-month-old.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I have
awesome.
a 9-month. His name's Weston. Yeah, so we're over, where were we at? Your sister's house.
For my
Mom's birthday. And he starts, whenever he starts
yeah,
crying, right? When he was little, instead of putting on like freaking Coco Melon or Paw Patrol, whatever, I go find like some Cole Townsend Goose videos. Shuts right up. And
I
he
love
sits
it.
there
Just staring right at it.
and you could see him looking for it, you know,
Yeah.
and he's just watching it and he's locked, especially when they're locked
Yep.
up and they're getting shot and they're falling all over them.
That's
He
awesome.
loves it, you know, and I think just the younger you start with them,
Yep.
and I have faith in this generation.
Absolutely.
Our kids' generation.
Yep.
I think being raised by like guys like us, I have faith for that to come back.
Sure.
And that's all you can have is faith, but I see it kind of changing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's our goal with doing all these kids events. You know, like the July 27th, we've got an event, Grindstone Port Hope Sportsman's Club. It's a youth outdoor day. We're giving away 200 duck calls. There'll be fire department, Michigan Out of Doors will be there. You know, it's events like that you know it's worth making the trip for. It's an all day thing. The kids are out. You know, and again, it doesn't have to be hunting. You know, like if you're not into hunting, that's okay. But there's fishing, there's camping, there's kayaking, it's all that stuff. So that's what, you know, our goal has been. We worked with, it was called MPHI. It was Michigan Pheasant Habitat Initiative. And our goal is, you know, back in the day, like when my dad was a young man, there was something called put and take, where it was, you know, they would put out the birds and you could go hunt them. And it was, you know, just basically an opportunity thing because, you know, of pheasants, there was better wild
Right. 100%.
habitat back then just because of, you know, farming practices were different and everything like that. But so I got involved with Ken Dalton and a good friend of mine, Nick, and we, you know, try to kind of get this, you know, kind of the put and take thing back. And we did some we pulled some, you know, reports of like the average age of the hunter in Michigan. And I want to say it was like 45 or 50, like the average age of a hunter.
I feel like I just heard that too. Yeah.
Which is just crazy. You know what I mean? And we looked at, this was several years ago we did this, but you know, we looked at South Dakota, and at the time I think it was like $82 million that were brought in from non-resident hunting. And it's more than just licenses, right? Like you get gas sold, you get hotel rooms, ammo, all those like mom and pop stores we were talking about. You know, there's those little bars in the middle of nowhere that, you know, that don't get the big rush of people. But, you know, you look at Pierre, South Dakota and all these places, like they're making, you know,
they're staying open because of that reason.
right, exactly. And the other thing is that, you know, a lot of people fought us on the fact that they were trying to, or they kept saying that we'll never reinstitute the population. Like we'll never repopulate. And we're like, we're not trying to. We're trying to give opportunity to the youth and whoever to get back out in the woods, you know, and hunt, you know, and have, instead of, you know, if you bring out a 9-year-old kid and you walk 7 miles and you don't see a bird, it's not that fun for them, right? Like it's not, you know, you might not get them the next day, but you might, and if you go out there and you flush 3 and maybe you don't get any, you might, when they hear that rooster
Spark
cackle,
interest.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, that was our whole goal with it. And I think that, you know, going back to the kids stuff is that's what we keep trying to, you know, hammer home, is just helping them learn how to call and just, you know, keep it going where they get involved, because without them, there is no GK calls if in 10 years no one's buying calls, you know?
Right. No, that's 100% true. And it's just so hard to be able to like push that, because it's only because like it even goes back not only to the kids, but like what you said, like taking kids out, like us taking kids out, because if there's not people to take those kids out or that have the patience for those kids, I mean, that goes a long way in itself.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the next generation, man.
Right.
You think about it.
And we got to help out where we can.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we're the ones obviously next up, but it's like it's coming so fast. They're next up is, you know, it has to get passed on. If it doesn't get passed on the right way,
right,
there's not going to be a sport. It's not going to be what it was, you know?
And what's hard too is, you know, I think that, you know, nowadays, like the one income household isn't a thing anymore, because it can't be. Everything's so expensive. And so it's you're working 5 days a week, and then you want to spend time with the kids. You only get them a couple, like, take them outside, and instead of put them in front of TV so you can go to the gym or whatever. Like, not that we haven't done that, right? Like, right. you gotta get stuff done too, but it's a great opportunity for for the kids. I mean, I try to take them out from sun up to sundown as much as I can, just because he's just become to love it, and I think it's an important thing to keep, driving home, and it's crucial. It's crucial to all the outdoor industry.
Oh yeah,
all the way across the board.
I agree.
One thing I did want to bring up too, because we talked about Canada a little bit.
Yeah. Your
dad and Jack Miner.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of break that down a little bit?
Sure. So I think it was 2004. I don't know how exactly the relationship really started, but I mean, other than we had a couple guys from Kingsville that were, on Team GK and good friends of ours. And I'm sure that's I don't remember exactly how the introduction happened, but Kurt Miner was running the sanctuary at the time. And we did a goose call. We did 1,000 of them, and it had a replica band in the insert, and it had a orange replica to make look like a orange neck collar.
Right.
And I believe they were $250. You got a certificate, and there was a DVD that was recorded. I actually think Sean Stahl recorded it for us.
Really?
Yep. And it was a tour of, which I should give you one. I still have some upstairs.
Yeah, I'd love one of those.
It was a tour of the sanctuary with my dad and Kurt, kind of going around and explaining everything, of the practices back in the day, and the importance of Ty Cobb and how he was involved, and because there's actually a baseball field on the sanctuary, and it's called Ty Cobb Field.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know Ty Cobb was that involved with it.
Yep. And so they had a real close connection with the Tigers, and they so we did this. So it was 1,000 calls, and then we gave, I think for every call that we sold, we gave $100 back to the sanctuary. So that kind of started the relationship, just to get the word out about the sanctuary for the people that didn't know. And again, we still to this day have a lot of guys that live, right in Kingsville or in the, general area. And then fast forward, I don't even know how many years, they started doing a little trade show for themselves, and they had a little calling contest. So again, we got back involved. We did kind of a retro run of the Element duck call to match the original goose call.
Okay.
And same thing, we donated money back to the sanctuary. And since then, we keep doing, every year we do some minor calls, and again, we just donate back to the sanctuary. But again, I don't know the year, but there was a time where they kind of asked my dad to step in to help out. There was a kind of a lull in the hierarchy there, and for a period of time, my dad was the interim CEO of the sanctuary, and a couple of our guys were on the board, and basically trying to help them, with the budget and getting back to the old practices of banding more and feeding more, and kind of taking in the locals to kind of understand the
importance behind it all.
Well, that, and to make sure that the birds were benefiting, right? Because it was a bird sanctuary, and there was they just try to kind of modernize the practices and things like that. So yeah, so we've always been, it's been kind of a long-standing relationship, and it was hard because a lot of it was during COVID. So he was doing a lot of Zoom and things like that, and it was just becoming too hard. So that's why he had to step down.
Gotcha.
Just because we couldn't go to Canada for so long.
Right.
But just the amount of meetings with still having a business to run and everything, it was becoming tough. But yeah, I don't know how long his period of time was there, but he's been, we've worked with the sanctuary for a really long time, and it's they banded a ton. I think last year, I don't know the number, but I think they banded quite a few birds.
I think it was almost $250,000 or something, like something outrageous.
Yeah, it was. I know it was a lot. but they've been doing a good job, ever since. And it's been, I think that they have a new CEO and I think they kind of have a new kind of group of people, and they're doing a really good job. So yeah, so it was, we've always had close contact with them, and we try to give back to them as much as we can.
Because I know for a while, well, two things here. It's crazy the amount of people around us anyway that don't know anything about Jack Miner.
Yeah.
And it's right across the lake, and the help, like the volunteering, I guess. It's crazy that people don't realize how much Jack Miner Sanctuary helps out with that area alone.
Yeah.
They got their own school, I believe.
Yeah.
Just with jobs or like people coming in and spending money and what they give back to even the people around there.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back to like the South Dakota, like the little small town bars that they stay open that way. I mean, it's a very important thing over there.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Besides the birds.
Absolutely. And that was I think the goal is to make it a destination again, make it worth traveling to see this, amazing thing where all these birds are in the front field, and to go see the museum and all the history, and, as an avid waterfowler, to appreciate it and understand, the history of it and why he started it and all that stuff. So it's definitely, if you don't know about it, definitely dive into it and look into it more. It's a really cool part of the waterfowl history, that's for sure.
And that's one thing too, where I really enjoy digging into like the history. I mean, even just like the scouting to dissect the birds out in the field, or why they're doing this, why they're making this noise, just really getting into it, and even learning about the history in Michigan. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big Michigan, along with Minnesota, with like, bringing the birds back there, but
sure.
The history behind Michigan waterfowl hunting, with the Great Lakes and the geese.
Yeah, it's huge. The old punt boats and all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff is insane.
Yeah, the punt boat thing. That was something I never really knew about.
I didn't either until Point Moulet.
Yeah, till Point Moulet. Yep.
Yeah,
with Hudson Bay right there, man, and like Canada right there, people don't understand. I don't think people understand the amount of birds that we actually get.
Well, so what is it? Hudson Bay is like, I want to say 1,800 miles away from where we're at. And then that Jack Miner, I mean, they're 20 miles across
Kingsville
the pond?
is right across the pond.
And
I'm just saying the migration, the way that it flows down, and how many we actually get. It's
the molts are insane when they start rolling down.
Oh yeah,
they're insane. But just like like I said, giving back to that habitat and the research behind it all. It's not just the birds.
Yeah,
it's big. It's real big.
Well, it's interesting too is how I think the migrations are changing. Like
huge.
They're evolving.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like how many?
They have to be.
I mean, there's in my office. There's a blue goose. And I shot it in the thumb of Michigan. You know, like 10 years ago, we never saw a snow.
Yeah.
But now every I'd say every waterfowler up there has killed a snow.
Yeah.
In the last, I'd say 6 years, and like every hunt, you almost see someone post like snow or blue, like we got our one, and I always wonder, like, are more coming, or is it gonna? I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely always changing, that's what makes it fun, right?
It's hard to say because last year was our first year in probably 4 years without killing a snow. And we've either had specks or blues or snows. Like
last year was a weird year everywhere, though.
It was very weird last year with the migration, just the warmness of it all. I mean, a lot of crops stayed up, and the crops that did go down, I mean, they were tilled under real quick.
Canada didn't freeze at all.
Right.
Like at all, ever.
Yeah, I think they had an early one, and then
that was it. And then it shut off, and it opened back. Yep.
So, it was tough last year. But I think a big thing with migration too is all the solar fields going in and the wind turbines.
That, and I agree with that. And I think one of the other things, again, going back to like the COVID time, is that those clubs, a lot of the clubs along Mitchell Bay and whatnot, they, in the sanctuaries, like those birds, all the Americans couldn't go hunt them.
Right.
So these birds were getting baited but not hunted, because they didn't want to lose the birds, so they were still paying to bait them, but they weren't getting shot. So those birds didn't have to go anywhere.
Oh.
So the refuges, I feel like, I mean, I know personally some of the guys that hunt those clubs, and they said like when it opened back up, it was insane. And then the other thing was the bird flu. Yeah. Couldn't, the bird flu hit, and then you couldn't bring back so Americans for a long time couldn't, I say a long time, but a couple of years couldn't go hunt, so I think it got a lot more Canadians into the game,
which is good.
But I think that it has to, that one refuge can hold 30, 40,000 ducks, so if they're not getting pressure, why leave, especially if it's not like you said, it didn't freeze up. If it doesn't freeze up, where do they go, so there's no reason to come south, and because, I talk to guys in Ohio and whatnot, like they're like, where are the birds at? Have they come through you yet? No, I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
They're sitting there, lounging, eating corn, not getting shot, And
I think one of the best ways that we're actually able to research that is the backpacks they've been putting on these birds.
For sure.
Because they've been seeing these birds. I think it was way up in Canada. I want to say a year or two ago. They seen a bird flying back and forth from just a pond with a fountain in it to the grain.
I remember seeing that.
And just bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
These birds aren't moving anymore.
It was a hen, I think.
It's crazy. Like they're just evolving that. They just, I don't know.
They have to or they don't survive.
But it is crazy though too that Canada with the baiting, like my buddy's got that, I don't know, 100 acres over there.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
It's crazy that it's that close because we were just talking about it too with like the bird limits. Like the pintails are talking about bringing up another limit.
Yeah.
How can you go right across the lake and you could shoot 6 of them if you wanted to?
Yeah, and not only that, the place that I was telling you I got to hunt, I can't remember what month it was, but it was late in the season and we were still seeing teal.
Yeah.
It was like late October, November, and we're still seeing teal. That's crazy.
I know
and a lot of them, like not just one,
Right.
I have pictures on my phone. It was in November. We were shooting teal.
Yeah.
I was like, this ain't right.
Right. That's how you know
and
things
are
it's an off year or a different year or whatever.
All over the place, man.
It makes me wonder too. A lot of people don't realize that reverse migration, how much of an impact that puts into the fly way. Like, them birds are going down. As soon as it warms back up, they're coming right back. Last year was a perfect example for that, in my opinion, because it warmed up. What was it? 60 degrees in November.
Yeah.
So of course those birds are going to head back north, and you're going to see some weird birds that you shouldn't be seeing around that time.
What? Let me ask you a question. You always hear guys talking about how you would change the season.
Another sponsor I wanted to bring up was Gibraltar Duck Hunters Association. Whether it's from youth hunts to cleaning up the beach to dinners, anything just in the community alone is an amazing thing to team up with these guys, and can't speak highly enough of them. From everything that they do, it's absolutely amazing, and I highly suggest anybody out there that has a local DU or just a small association, highly suggest teaming up with those guys and giving back as much as you possibly can, because if not, who knows what the future holds. Like I said, greatly appreciate those guys letting us team up with them, and I really cannot express how excited I am for the future. But back to the podcast.
Guys extending it longer, seeing more bird, having a January or, all the birds show up January, February. What do you see in your area?
That's tough because the lake, you obviously, every year it's the divers that are coming in right after season. They're there.
Right.
But then a lot of people don't understand how much of an impact that could do to the future, I feel like, with the breeding season of it in itself. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as much as you would want the season to go further or like maybe another week, it sounds great and all, but, what's that going to do for years to come? So
sure.
It's hard to say, it's such a back and forth conversation where no matter what you say, it's not going to be right.
Right.
Somebody's going to have something to say about it.
It's a double-edged sword. I don't know. Later is better.
Guy.
Right. For Weston, man.
Exactly.
I would say later is better just because of the warm weather that we've been having, and it doesn't seem like it's going away, and it seems like these winters are just getting more mild and more mild every year. And we're like, it's been a cold summer. We got to have a cold winter. And it's like, nope, it's still 70 degrees in November. Yeah. And I don't know if that's becoming a global trend or
I mean,
but
that and rain. I mean, the last two,
the rain too. Yep.
I noticed a big difference last year in deer patterns at our place with all the moisture. Like, you know, because I have this, like, it's not even a pond. I mean, it's just a watering hole, but it holds water all year round. And I always have a camera on it. And we would always you'd always have those bachelor groups come through and hit it, you know, and it was one of my best spots for pictures. No, nothing, you know, there was nothing there other than just the water. Last year, I don't think a single deer hit it. I mean, you know, maybe a doe or whatnot, but it was like, someone told me it's like maybe because of the availability of, like, because we got so much rain, there's so many more spots with puddles and that are holding water, and like there's more moisture in the ground, so I don't know.
Because the year before that it was real dry, and I'm sure you probably seen a lot of it because it was
right.
It makes sense.
So it was interesting to see you know, we've had the place for like 7 or 8 years now, and I was actually just talking to a friend today. Like I keep all my like bucks from every year. Like I put them in a Google Photos thing just because it's cool, you know.
Right.
And it's easy to like categorize them now because the computer does it for you. So you just pick like year, select them all, and drag them over.
You're way better with the computer than I am. Way better.
But yeah, so it's interesting with the rain. And this year, my neighbor up north sent me a thing, and it's like, I mean, it's way over the charts from last year, and we had a lot last year, and you know, so it's
kind of makes you wonder. But you just did a bunch of like clear cutting though, didn't you? Or hinge cutting up there?
A little bit of everything. So we have 50 acres and a ton of aspen on it. And as soon as the leaves fall, we lose all of our deer.
Yeah, no cover.
There's no cover.
Right.
And so for the longest time, I was always, I mean, I would say I'm fairly new to deer hunting, like to diehard deer hunting, you know, and I wouldn't call myself a diehard. I enjoy it. But for the longest time, I was always looking for like the instant gratification. Like, what should I plant this year that will benefit me this year? And I finally, after 7 years of failing and doing, I mean, I've shot a couple good deer out there now, but I finally, like, especially with my son getting more involved with it, I was like, okay, you know, like, here's a prime example. I was like, I'm not going to plant that oak tree because I'm never going to see these acorns fall for me to shoot a deer over it. You know, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to plant these 10 chestnut trees so my son and my 2 sons can shoot a deer in 15 years, you know? So my mindset has kind of changed on that, where I'm just focused on cover now, you know, because that's what, I mean, we have deer up until the leaves fall, like good deer, you know, and they're using it. And so we did a big, I guess it's called a select cut this year. So got rid of that and hoping it comes up, you know, a lot thicker and just kind of thickening up some areas, and concentrated a lot on like planting willows. And we did some of the like the HD screening and switchgrass, and just for like entry points to blinds, and a lot more of the, you know, the stuff that you should concentrate on instead of just, you know, what are we going to plant this year that, you know, will instantly, you know, have gratification for. But yeah, so I kind of switched my mindset, which I think will help in the long run you know, a ton. And it took me a while to learn it. And you just learn by your failures, you know, like anything. But I
just wish the stuff that you failed on wasn't so expensive.
I know that.
Oh my, yeah.
Right down the drain.
Trust me, switchgrass, you know, $700 for a 50-pound sack is just
So what is that?
We just bought a ton of it for the blinds.
What the hell is switchgrass?
It's a grass that grows to like, you know, 6-7 feet.
Yeah.
But, you know, like even just 5 years ago, so one of the big like varieties was called Cave and Rock, right? So we had this 10-acre field, and I was like, okay, it's a barren field, it's just weeds, like we need cover.
CRP cover.
Yeah, so we till up the whole field, and we plant, you know, it was a good couple $1,000 investment just in seed, you know, because you got to put down, I think it's like 8 pounds per acre for bedding, 10 for screen or something like that. So, you know, you got to have quite a few pounds to put in 10 acres, you know, and you plant it. And then like with this Cave and Rock variety, you have to have, it goes through this like stratification process. So you're supposed to put it down in, well, you're not supposed to, but like it helps once it goes through like a winter, because it has to, it has to stratify the seed, which I don't know what exactly that means, but it took, you know, 2 or 3 years for it to grow, right?
Yeah.
Well, I planted this 10-acre field, and there's like 2 acres worth of this grass, you know, it's like, So this year we did a huge burn. We burned 15 acres.
Yeah.
And that really did an amazing thing.
All that nutrients.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It really came up, and like, so even a lot of like the dormant seed came up, which it can sit there for years. Like if it doesn't go
Germinate. Yeah.
and it really popped up. So we have a lot more this year, and now there's new varieties. Like there's this Tecumseh and RC Tecumseh and something else, which is like a 2-year thing that doesn't need stratification. So we did that this year. We planted like a border around all of our plots with that. So hopefully by next year,
It'll be up and
yeah,
good to go.
because the same thing, like, we have quite a few food plots, but when the leaves fall, like a deer can see what's in the food plot from. So there's no buck that's going to step out because they can see it from half a mile away. You can shoot a cannon through it when the leaves fall. So I didn't want to, we've done some hinge cutting, which was a game changer for us too, but I didn't want to hinge cut the whole place,
We had the same problem. You probably heard of the road, Snover Road.
Yeah.
So we were right off of Snover Road.
It's just down the street from us.
Yes. I mean, I've missed the biggest buck in my life.
Really?
I've ever seen. Like the deer that I got on camera right now, he was, if not bigger than that one. Right, 20 yards right in front of me, but it was the same thing. Like when the crops were up and the leaves were up, it was solid because they'd be running through there.
Yeah,
and it was just a highway for them.
Yeah,
but once the leaves came off, the crops were down. They were just gone. They went back to the bigger woods.
Yep,
it's just hard to compete with the habitat. But now that you're doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like we had last year, we had alfalfa for the last like 5-6 years, and that's just year round. The deer love it. They planted corn for the first time last year, and they picked it in like November 5th or something and tilled it right under. So I had a black field for the whole winter season. So there was no deer that wanted to touch it. Where now it's alfalfa again. There's 60 deer out there at night. Like the neighbor sends me pictures every night, and that'll be when everything else is gone. That's still there,
Still
and it's just in even the neighbor, like to the south of us, he said he had a trail camera by his camper because there was a trail of the deer every night going across the street, crossing the street, coming through our woods. Traveling a quarter mile to go to that alfalfa and then coming back every night. He said last year, not a single picture.
Wow. That's crazy.
So that 80-acre field drastically changed our our
deer herd in the area and your population overall.
That was what was tough for us because we just got into the deer hunting last year.
Yeah.
We had this property for 2 years now. This is our 3rd year going into it. It's like kind of right where we're hunting at for like waterfowl wise. They didn't take the corn down until February.
Yeah, that's tough.
As soon as they took it was like the day after season, whatever day that was, January, February, whatever it was. The day they took it down, there's 20 deer standing right in front of the blind. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And that's where I found like the big sheds at. And they were there, obviously. It's just.
I was all excited for the corn to start, and then when they didn't, I was like, well, I was either like, okay, let's cut it, and then maybe I can hunt geese here or something. But they just cut it and tilled it under, and we just had dirt, That
was the same way with our water hole last year. Like where we ducks. They didn't take that down until, I think, 2 weeks after the waterfall season. Yeah. So it was like, it just kind of screwed us right over.
I guess that's what makes us keep coming back, right? It's frustrating.
It's what if.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
It's literally that chasing the dragon.
Yeah. Right. I truly like the habitat side of deer hunting more than I actually like sitting there for 12 hours at a time.
I enjoy that kind of stuff too. I used to be really big into deer hunting, like huge. Yeah. And I got so bored of it. Yeah. And I had always waterfowl hunted, and I was like, this is way more. Yeah. I went out and shot like a 6 or 7 man limit, and I was like, this is way more fun, and you're talking, you're cooking, and
get your dogs out there. And,
but I used to be huge into it, man. I used to love, like, I'd do little spot plots all over the place, and try throw and grow and just like lucky buck shit. And I wish I had more equipment back then to do it the right way, because I would have, I just enjoy it.
Yeah. And you know what the cool thing, I think now is that it's there. They do a really good job, the deer industry, of like the wealth of knowledge out there. Like YouTube is so valuable. Like it is
crazy now.
You can learn how to do anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that goes to, I guess, any industry. Right. How to make a goose call, how to tune a goose call, how to blow a goose call, down the line. But it's I'll
say I've looked into like the turkey aspect of it all, and that seems like it's growing more. Yeah. Because even like the burnings or the canopy cover, like that was never really explained.
Predator control.
That was never explained really into detail until like previous years. mean, I didn't realize canopy cover like did something for the turkey, like the flock of the bird, like
Right.
what flock you had there.
Well,
It's crazy.
Well, even we noticed, and Paul has a hard time killing turkeys, but
his guide service is top notch, man.
but we had he had this bird. He's hunting my farm for years, and
Vaseline.
Gasoline, that's right.
But no, so we had this bird that they've roosted in different parts of the property, but we did this. We got that select cut. And all of a sudden, like these birds roosted in the same spot. The story that he told you guys, I listened to the podcast, and he was in the field the one day. He tried to set up under it the next day. Again, we're still working with him on the turkey calling side of things, but yeah. So like again, just changing the habitat, it changed their whole patterns,
right.
And the other thing too is I didn't realize the predator control kind of thing. The turkey scratch in the skunks and things like that, how they scratch the eggs and crack them. And
It's a huge thing.
the other thing that I didn't know too, that someone told me, is that turkeys hurt because they're such scratchers. They in turn that's why like some of the pheasant and grouse population is down, because our turkey population is up. That they're same thing. They scratch nests and things like that, and they're plant like grouse plant, or they're in the ground.
I never really thought of it that way. I mean, I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not. It's not. I don't have any science behind it, but someone told me that, and I was like, it makes sense. The areas that are overpopulated with turkeys, like lower population of grouse and woodcock, like it makes sense, like that they could scratch nests, because they are. I mean, you see them.
Yeah,
they're just picking at everything.
Right.
I mean, and that's the hardest part too, like the predator side of everything. Back in the day, there was a reason to go out and get pelts.
Oh, for sure.
Nowadays, you're wasting your time.
100%.
No money into it.
None.
So why go out and do it? And
if you don't have your own place, then there's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
There's no benefit. I mean, you guys talked about that with Paul. He used to run a trap line, and he taught his son and everything. But again, it's a lot of work for, nothing.
Other going than out there checking them every day.
Right.
And
there's a lot of resources involved, and time and money, and
you got to check traps every day. And then Paul, he sets traps out, and the coyotes are still trying to just get in the bed of his truck instead of the truck.
We love you, Paul.
Yeah, very much, Paul, very much. But you got any other things? I'm gonna bounce off a couple quick questions here that I got for him.
No, nothing I can think of.
We talked about some locations for hunts. What would be one of your dream hunts?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Waterfowl or any hunting?
Waterfowl. Like location or like
New Zealand.
Yeah, that's
really.
When you said that.
Yeah, we have a. Well, I guess New Zealand would be my answer for stag too. We have
Stag would be awesome.
Yeah, there's a good a dealer. So there's two. So again, it's a long story, but we've gotten to know some great guys out in New Zealand. Tony Dobbs and Gerard, awesome guys, and
they shoot the shit out of the geese.
They do, man. Yeah, they do. And I've said to him, because I'm not a big spider fan, I was like, I'm not coming out there. He always invites us, and I was like, I'm not coming out there with those, man-eating spiders. He's like, we don't have any of that in New Zealand. It's all Australia. He's like,
really?
Yeah. He's like, we don't have any of that stuff. And you don't know if he's lying to me or not.
Right.
But he's like, come out here. We'll hunt. We can, come out here for stag. Standing invite. And it's like, man, if I didn't have these young kids, like I would be there. And
might as well hit dove too.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I hope to one day to be able to go out there. And I've seen some grounds videos, like when they got to go out there, it just looked just absolutely incredible. But I mean, it's such a it's such a far flight.
Right.
But yeah, that's probably my number one to get out there, just because we've gotten to know each other pretty well. And he's a dealer of ours out there. And we actually had another dealer. Just because of the language barrier, we've only talked via email, but we have a guy in France selling our stuff too.
That's sweet.
Which is cool. I mean, they don't buy a ton, but it's just cool to say, like, I've got a dealer in New Zealand. We're just this little mom and pop shop in Michigan, that we're selling in New Zealand, and France is just pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
I forget the outfitter. I want to say it's the outfitter that hunts in New Zealand. They post videos all the time.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about too.
I forget the name of it, but I think like the limit's like 15, 20 birds a person.
Yeah, and I think there's some stuff that there is no limit.
Yeah,
I think,
insane.
and like it's crazy. Well, and like I've seen them where they've hunted and there's like, what's the name of it? What kind of deer do they have? It's not the stag, but it's like is
access deer.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Where I've seen like a pile of birds and then 2 deer.
Yeah.
You know, like
You're talking about the little
yeah,
antler deer.
yeah.
I forget to name those things. They're tiny little deer.
Yeah, and it's like, man, what a hunt that would be. You know, you killing a couple deer, and that's definitely the one of the bucket lists for me. Is it's a big trip, but I definitely want to go out there. And I've actually never hunted. I've never hunted like a big
Trophy animal.
No, like the big swirl of like snows or blues or like Missouri or Arkansas. I've never hunted like the big, the big feeds. Like I've never hunted that in all the years. I just haven't, but it's one of the things that it would be really cool to do where, like the spring snows, that would be really cool.
Maybe hook them up with
Mike,
with Hawk.
Oh, Hawk too. Yeah.
Let's go down to Prim Springs.
Prim Springs in Arkansas. Yeah.
No, I mean, again, with being in the industry so long, there's so
many people.
Yeah, definitely had opportunities to do so, but just one of those things that have never come together. But I would definitely like to do that. I've seen a million videos and talked to a million guys that done it. Sounds like a blast.
There was one video last year I saw, and I want to say it was New Zealand. Guy was out there by himself. I swear, I think he shot over 100 geese just by himself.
What? All right. I'm
not saying that the numbers are going back to the numbers thing.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's that, but just that's insane to
Yeah.
even think that you can do that there.
What geese are they shooting in New Zealand? I've only ever seen like ducks.
Canada's
Yeah, they have Canada's. They got a bunch of different ones too.
crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to show you
I've seen
some
them
videos.
shoot like spoonies and teal.
Yeah, they've got some crazy ones too. I don't know the names of all of them,
like the
but
bean geese and like Nick Johnson, out of all people, would know what's down there. I don't know if you know Nick Johnson or not. He's
don't think so.
like the biggest bird nerd, and I try to listen to him as much.
bird nerd.
I'm telling you, he is insane when it comes to like the bird migration.
yeah.
That's
nuts.
crazy. I'd love to learn more about that with the New Zealand part and how Canada's get there.
I'll show you after this. What's coming down the pipe for GK? I know you guys just dropped a new call.
Yep. So we just came out with the Rumbler. It's an awesome call. We've had really good response, from everybody that's bought one so far. It's a unique sound to our lineup. It's got a really cool logo on it. I'm really proud of that. Scott Rumble's been a long time competition caller, GK guy for years and years and years. I call him my big little brother because he's, not very tall. Love you, Scott. But he is truly like a brother to me. And, we're the hardest thing I think nowadays is naming the call.
Being different.
And finding something that, someone already doesn't have because there's so many out there now. And we had been playing around with, prototyping and making little changes, and Scott was helping us, kind of prototype it, and we were making tweaks here and there. And my dad and I were talking one day, and I was like, what are we going to name this thing? Like we finally had it dialed in, and he's like, what are we going to name this thing? And I was like, let's call it the Rumbler, and that's because we always called his name Scott Rumble. We always called him Rumbler. And I was like, let's call it the Rumbler, and we'll make it like a big, I was like, let's make it a badass goose, like it looks like he's kind of fighting and like he's a war tattered, kind of a hardcore, because that's how Scott is. I mean, he's an incredible goose guide. I mean, he bust his ass for 25 years guiding every day of the season. And he's a dog trainer too. Gander Ridge Retrievers out of Ridgetown. So it was kind of a homage to him and to say thank you for all the hard work over the years, and just a cool name and a cool logo and a really cool sound. It's not like anything else. And, guys always come up to us and say, what's a good call for a beginner, or what's this, what's that? And it's for the longest time, the solution was kind of that all around call where you could give it to someone who is brand new. You could give it to someone like Mike Coppola, who competed in the Worlds with it at, top 6 in the world, 2014 with it. It was kind of that all around call, and the Rumbler like kind of stepped in and kind of took that over. It's someone who's brand new to it, is easy to crack over, but there's no limit to where you can go with it. And it's just a fun call to blow. So I would recommend, we're going to be at Bay City, August 3rd and 4th, Woods and Water in Imlay City, September 6th and 8th. and Point Moulet Waterfall Festival, September 14th and 15th. So I would recommend just coming out. I see almost daily someone post on one of the waterfall threads, what's the best goose call or what's the best duck call. There's a million good duck and goose calls out there. And I know a lot of the guys very well, and they make an awesome call. Fred Zink, Field Hudnall, George Lynch, Sean Stahl, Big Sean, guys I all grew up with in the industry. Tim Grounds, Hunter Grounds, a good friend of ours. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Tim. There's so many great calls, and I know I'm missing a lot, because there's a million out there and there's a lot of good ones, and I apologize for the ones that I missed, but the biggest thing is go out and try them and use these shows to do so, because every call fits someone a little bit different, and they all sound like a goose, and a good caller can make a lot of them, sound great, but it's the customer service behind the call, and who's going to tune it for you and who's going to be there to teach you how to use it. And if something goes wrong with it, who's going to answer the call, and that's what we try to pride ourselves on, is customer service and, being there for our customers time and time again. And so we're excited for the new call, and we hope we can keep it going for another 25 years. This is our 25th year anniversary this year. So it's a cool thing. And it's honestly, it's just cool to work next to my dad every day. And he brought me up in the industry, and he's respected by, everybody in the industry. So it's an honor to be part of it. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Oh yeah. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's one thing about GK or the calling aspect, creating or taking on the company? What's one thing that you could tell young Glenn that maybe young Glenn didn't think back then or didn't know back then?
Ooh, that's a good question. Whew. Honestly, I think it would be just to, almost appreciate what I was really a part of.
Yeah.
To be around these moguls and giants of the industry, and to be able to hunt with them, and it kind of became the norm, and it's one of those things that I look back now, and it's like some of these guys and kids and I guess it doesn't matter the age, would just be like, wow, like, I was truly spoiled by it, and it was, I guess that would be the biggest thing is to kind of to appreciate it more at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to like make, cause you just take it for granted, because when it becomes, the norm
in your life every day in and out.
Right. Exactly. And that would be the biggest thing, I think, is that I truly appreciate everyone that has helped us, because again, we couldn't have done it alone. Guys like Tim Grounds, we wouldn't have a call company today if it wasn't for Tim. He was an integral part. When we had lost a machinist, we needed another one. We called Tim. He said, "I got you, bub." Made a phone call, and we had a new machinist that day.
And that's all. I just got chills when you said that, because that is all I've heard about Tim Grounds.
And
it's how good of a human being he was, even from the Powers family that I know really well. Like, just they say the same thing. Like, they wouldn't be where they are today without Tim Grounds and his help with Kelly. And
none of us would be. Nobody in this industry would be where they are without Tim Grounds. And I will never forget that. And I tell Hunter that every time that I talk to him. And we miss him dearly, but yeah. So going back to your question, I think it would just be, really take in that, and not that I ever took it for granted, but those times that you're in the mix and you're doing it, you don't realize what you're actually doing, and like I was telling you guys earlier, we would go to these shows, and I was 12, 13, 14 years old, and I would watch all these guys hang out, and I mean, it was everyone that was big in the industry, I mean, it was Kelly, Sean, Fred, Todd, George, Big Sean, everybody coming up, they were all hanging out, and it was like, man, what you look back now, and you if you had a picture of that, you're like, holy shit, like, wow. And look where all these guys are now, you know, and it's
Hall of Famers, man.
Absolutely. And, you know, Wade and all those guys and Craig, and there's so many names. And, but it would be, there was guys that were kind of coming up that were my age that I tried to kind of get it back to that, just because like I remember those parties and things like that, watching those guys have that fun. I was like, let's, you know, rolling with 50 guys versus like, you know, the 6 guys that, you know, it became kind of cliquey for a long time.
Yeah.
And,
Still
you know,
is.
It is, yeah. But that would be the biggest thing.
Yeah. Just kind of stop, take a look around, and just breathe it in for a minute.
For sure.
Like, holy shit.
Because those memories are what, you know, keep me, you know, still, you know, it excites me about it. And, you know, I want my son to grow, my sons to grow up in the industry and learn the way that I did and grow up the way I did, because I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so lucky to have the mom and dad that I had and give me the opportunities that I've had. And still to this day, like my dad, you know, I get to work by, you know, side by side by him every single day.
Super special.
Yeah. And I get to see my mom every day because she watches our kids. So it's truly a family business. And my sister, you know, she's up front and she covers me while I'm on the road and or planting food plots or whatever it is. She answers the phone for us, and
strictly
so
business, not
yeah, exactly. So it's it's a special thing, and I'm very, very lucky. So I have to thank everybody for that too, and I thank all of our customers for us going for so long. So
it's awesome, man. I mean, what more could you want? You have your whole family right here. You run a business.
I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's super special stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so grateful to be, you know, working with you guys and just have, like I said, the relationship. I mean, it's been only a year.
Yeah,
and I feel like I've
basically
known
a year.
you for way longer
Right,
than that.
right.
You know? So it's a special thing to be able to a part of GK.
Do you think now, after knowing you for a year, you'd pull a prank on Paul after I asked you and you failed the last time?
We would definitely do it now.
You heard about that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, you told me. We definitely do it now.
Dude, I was like shitting bricks.
I
I'm like,
love
dude,
Paul,
I just
dude.
met this guy, man. I don't know if this is a good idea. And the funniest thing was, I think it was Snapchat
Paul's so funny, man.
during deer camp or opening day at Turkey or whatever it was. I think it was Paul sleeping. He was like sleeping on his hand, and you came by and like smacked his hand out or whatever it was. I don't know, man. It was hilarious. But just seeing like the bond between just the GK family itself.
No, we're all, I mean, it's all family. We've got guys all over the United States, all over Canada. I just had my son's first birthday was Saturday, and I had, you know, a guy, you know, one of our guys came over from Canada, stayed the night at the house. You know, like I was telling you earlier, my wedding had more, you know, you do all the group pictures, right? Like you do family and you do your high school friends. The GK was like, you know, 50 people, you know, even at my sister's wedding, you know, it was, and that was, you know, probably half of them.
Right.
And that was, you know, that the thing, a couple of the shows that, you know, we used to do, like Burlington, Iowa was such a good one because there was like, it was kind of a central location because we had like Illinois, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa. And it was like, you know, that show we'd have like 25 people come that were all, you know, we don't have pro staff anymore. It's just like family, you know, and
that's one thing that's been killing me with the industry. I mean, there's so many people nowadays that they'll even come like on our page and be like, "Hey, pro staff, can we pro staff you guys?" And it's like people so badly just want a free handout, or like they don't want to do anything for it anymore, right? Like a pro staff, what is pro staff anymore? It's not like what it used to be.
No, I mean,
anybody could be pro staff like nowadays.
And I think it's important to have, you know, I call them like brand ambassadors. Like I think it's important to have, like I look at you as a brand ambassador for GK, you know, and upstanding guys that, you know, I don't want you to go post on every post like buy GK. Like I just want you to use it. And, you know, and like I said too, like if you change your mind and you want to go use a different call company, just say, "Hey Glenn, I've changed my mind. Like I'm still going to be buddies with you." You know, like we don't hold that, you know, hold you to that by any means. Like it's, for us, it's about relationships and networking. And, you know, I mean, I've been to weddings and funerals and graduation parties and first birthdays. And, you know, it's something like, I mean, I said before, I wouldn't change anything for it in the world, you know, other than having more time to see all those guys, you know, that's, you know, we all grew up and we got kids and everybody gets busier. So you don't, you know, there was times where in the summer, it was every single weekend you got to see everybody because you were traveling the calling circuit and we were doing the shows while the guys were calling, and, you know, but life changes. But, you know, like I told my friend this the other day, Mike Coppola from Canada. I said, we could not see each other for 5 years, and it's like we haven't seen each other in a day. You know what I mean?
That's how you know.
That's how you know it's a real. Yeah, exactly. And that's how all those guys are. You know, we have that's the good thing about group chats and whatnot. You can kind of still harass each other and stuff like that. So, but
and that's the thing too. If you go to New Zealand to hunt, I guarantee you, the first morning they're gonna have one of those fake giant spiders like right on your door.
Right. For sure. Yeah, I should stop talking about that spider. Yeah, snakes and spiders. Yeah. For sure.
Alyx, you got anything else, man?
No, just super nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Great conversation. I think us promoting your brand is probably one of the best things that we could do to grow this thing both ways. I mean, you guys are already huge as it is, but it's now that I've gotten to know you, I'm going to be running GK.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. It's a great platform for us, and we're always still trying to add, new customers and get the word out. Like I told you too earlier, our slogan is we don't want to be the biggest, just the best. And there's still a lot of people that don't know about GK, so hopefully, this can at least get the word out and let people take a look at it,
We'll see the background behind everything too, not just a call.
Right.
See who
for sure.
You are
for sure.
And
customer service, the quality. Yeah. I mean, when you call here, you said you're talking to the owner, about customer service. Who more could you want?
Right.
I think that's huge. We lost that in today's world for sure. And the fact that you guys are still representing that style of business, I think is very crucial to have.
Yeah. We're lucky to be able to do so, it's, but yeah, we appreciate you guys, and we appreciate you spreading the word for us. And I definitely think it's mutually beneficial for both of us. So thank you guys for making the trip. It means a lot.
Of course, man. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
We'll have to figure something else out, whether it's a hunt or do this again. At
for sure.
In the year.
We have to get Paul on. I tried to get him today, but I wanted to harass him the whole time on the podcast because I wanted
hilarious.
I wanted
we got to do that.
I wanted on record recorded so we could always go back and listen to it because.
So Paul's going to be videoing for us this year.
Oh, is he cool?
Yeah. Him and Brian are going to be coming out once in a while, and I feel bad because it's still kind of a hike for Paul to come all the way down, but. Maybe we could plan something out where both of you guys are on a hunt.
That would be
not only harass blind, but harass afterwards.
I'll save all the good stories for the one where we're on together because we could just do a story of Paul and Glenn hunts.
Sounds
dude.
Good.
I wouldn't mind doing something like that. I think that's something listeners would want to hear.
There's quite a few of them that I can think right off the top of the head. So there's a lot of good ones, but
that'll be a good one.
Love you again, Paul.
Love-hate relationship. But Glenn, I appreciate it, man. It's been it's been a blast being up here and seeing the shop for the first time. I should have been up here a long time ago. But just to be able to share the time with you, I can't even explain how much I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Same goes. I want to come down and see your studio. So it's, again, thank you guys for making the trip. So
of course,
come when it's colder because the AC is really not working right now.
Well, you see me, I'm not a little guy, so you make sure that temp is not at like 68 or lower.
Right.
I run hot. So thanks, guys.
But appreciate everybody tuning in, and until next week, we'll see you guys.